The Silent Vanguard. The message arrived at exactly 700 Earth Standard Time, transmitted simultaneously to every communications hub across the planet. It wasn't diplomatic. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a demand, the final in a long series of increasingly hostile ultimatums from the Galactic Consortium. Earth has 48 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to Consortium authority. Failure to comply will result in immediate quarantine followed by systematic neutralization of all defensive capabilities. In the United Earth Defense Command Center beneath the Himalayas, Admiral Helena Chen read the message for the third time, her face betraying no emotion. The room around her, filled with the highest-ranking military and political leaders of humanity, remained silent. They had expected this moment for years. Now it had arrived. "Send the response," Chen said quietly. The communications officer hesitated only briefly before pressing his palm against the quantum transmitter. A single message, already prepared years ago, was broadcast on all consortium frequencies. "You chose war. Now witness how it's won." For 3 centuries, humanity had been a footnote in galactic politics. When Earth finally developed faster-than-light travel and joined the interstellar community, they discovered a harsh truth. The galaxy wasn't waiting with open arms. The Consortium, a collection of 17 advanced species, had long ago carved up the accessible universe among themselves. Humans were latecomers, tolerated only as a source of exotic art, unique biological compounds, and occasionally, amusement. Earth's requests for territorial expansion were denied. Applications for advanced technology sharing were rejected. Petitions for equal representation were ignored. Humanity was expected to remain in its designated corner of the Orion Arm, a cosmic ghetto of just 27 star systems. But something the Consortium never understood about humans: they don't accept limitations well. For the past 70 years, Earth had projected an image of compliance. Their ships were outdated. Their colonies struggled. Their diplomatic envoys were deferential to the point of obsequiousness. All while, beneath the surface, humanity prepared. Hidden research facilities throughout the Sol system developed technologies the Consortium believed impossible for humans. Stealth shipyards in distant asteroid fields constructed vessels unlike anything seen in known space. Special forces trained in environments so hostile they would kill most Consortium species. And deep in the digital realm, human AI systems infiltrated Consortium networks, gathering intelligence and planting dormant programs. Now, as the Consortium's deadline approached, they expected Earth to either surrender or attempt some futile last stand with their primitive technology. They were wrong on both counts. 6 hours after Earth's response, the first sign that something was amiss came when 3 Consortium monitoring stations simultaneously went dark. Located at strategic hyperspace junction points, these stations were responsible for tracking all vessels moving through Consortium space. The Archon Council, the 17 representatives of the ruling species, convened an emergency session. Before they could even establish communication protocols, reports flooded in from across their territories. 57 more installations had gone silent. No distress calls, no signs of attack. They simply ceased to exist. In the council chambers, Archon Zex Tull of the Vordanian hegemony, the most militaristic of the Consortium members, pounded his chidnous appendage against the conference table. "This is impossible. Human technology cannot bypass our detection systems. They cannot strike this deep into our territory without warning." "Evidently, they can," replied Archon Mira of the Solari Collective, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxious energy. "The question is not whether they've done it, but how." The answer came 90 minutes later when every major military communications system across Consortium space simultaneously broadcast a message from within their own secure networks. A human woman appeared on their screens, Admiral Chen, though none of the Archons knew her name or rank. She wore a simple gray uniform with minimal insignia. "This is Earth Command to all Consortium authorities. You have spent centuries treating humanity as an annoyance. a species to be contained, exploited, and eventually absorbed. You believed our compliance was weakness. Our patience was resignation. Our acceptance was fear. She paused, allowing her words to sink in. It was none of those things. It was strategy. While you watched our outdated ships patrol our borders, you missed what we built in secret. While you intercepted our diplomatic communications, you missed the networks we established beyond your monitoring. On screens across consortium space, the image shifted to show a holographic map of their territory, with thousands of points illuminated in red. What you're seeing are the locations of our strike teams and autonomous systems already deployed throughout your space. They await a single command. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces from human-claimed territories and open diplomatic channels for renegotiation of humanity's status. There will be no extensions. There will be no warnings. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, panic erupted. They're bluffing, Zek's tool insisted. No species could infiltrate our security to this extent. Archon Lyra of the Nulveric domain, the oldest member of the council, raised a trembling hand for silence. We've underestimated them. The humans have always been different. While we expanded through conquest or political alliance over millennia, they achieved comparable technological advancement in mere centuries. They think differently. They adapt at a rate that defies evolutionary norms. What are you suggesting? Demanded Archon Droll of the Macacracy, his synthetic body humming with agitation. I'm suggesting we negotiate, Lyra replied, before we discover how much of their threat is real. But the consortium had ruled unchallenged for too long. Pride overruled caution. Zek's toll authorized immediate countermeasures. A strike force was dispatched to Earth with orders to demonstrate overwhelming force. The consortium battle group, 50 capital ships, each capable of devastating an entire continent, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system exactly 29 minutes after Chen's ultimatum. They found nothing. Earth was gone. Not destroyed. Simply not where it should be. The entire Sol system appeared to have vanished. As the consortium commanders frantically scanned for explanations, sensors detected movement. Not planets, ships, thousands of them, materializing seemingly from nowhere. They didn't register on standard detection systems until they were already in weapons range. The human vessels bore little resemblance to their known designs. These were sleek, dark shapes that seemed to absorb both light and sensor scans. They moved with impossible precision, as though the laws of inertia had been temporarily suspended. The consortium commander ordered immediate offensive action. Weapons powered up, and then went dead. Every system on every consortium vessel suddenly failed, leaving them adrift and defenseless. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral Chen watched the disabled consortium fleet on her view screen. "Open a channel," she ordered. The face of Fleet Commander Vex Karna, the highest-ranking Vordanian military officer in the consortium, appeared on screen. His mandibles clicked in barely contained fury. "What have you done?" he demanded. "How is this possible?" "We studied you," Chen replied simply. "For decades, while you dismissed us as primitive, we reverse-engineered every piece of technology we could access. We identified the quantum harmonic patterns in your shield systems. We developed countermeasures for your weapons. And most importantly, we learned to move through space in ways you never imagined. The Sol system is exactly where it's always been, but we've developed what we call displacement field technology. It doesn't move objects. It shifts how they interact with the fabric of space-time. To your sensors, we're invisible until we choose not to be." Chen leaned forward. "Your 30 minutes are up, Commander. The consortium's choice is simple. Recognize humanity as equals with full sovereign rights over our claimed territories, or we will systematically dismantle your entire power structure." As if to emphasize her point, reports flooded into Vex Karna's communication system. What remained of it? Across consortium space, critical infrastructure was failing. Defense systems went offline. Power grids collapsed. It wasn't destruction, it was precisely targeted disruption. In the Archon Council chamber, the 17 rulers of the most powerful species in known space faced an unprecedented reality. They were no longer the uncontested masters of the galaxy. Humanity, the species they had contained and dismissed, had outmaneuvered them all. The message from Earth echoed in their minds. You chose war. Now witness how it's won. The reckoning. The consortium had never known defeat. For millennia, their technological superiority and political unity had made them untouchable. Species either joined them, became vassals, or were systematically isolated until they collapsed. The idea that humans, barely 3 centuries into interstellar travel, could challenge this order was inconceivable. Yet the evidence was undeniable. As the Archon Council convened an emergency session, reports continued to flood in from across their domain. Critical systems were failing in seemingly random patterns. Military vessels found themselves stranded when hyperspace engines refused to activate. Communications networks experienced precisely timed outages that lasted exactly 7 minutes and 23 seconds, just long enough to create chaos, but not long enough to implement backup systems. It wasn't wholesale destruction. It was strategic disruption, designed to demonstrate control rather than inflict maximum damage. How? Demanded Archon Zextul, his exoskeleton clicking with agitation. How did they penetrate our system so completely? The answer came from an unexpected source. Archon Mirazade, a junior analyst who had been granted rare permission to address the council, stepped forward. They'd been inside our networks for decades, she said, her voice steady despite the 17 pairs of alien eyes fixed upon her. Their approach was unique. Most infiltrators attempt to breach security directly. The humans instead created systems that evolved alongside ours, mimicking our own security protocols so perfectly that our networks identified them as legitimate components. Impossible, scoffed Droll of the Macacracy. Our systems would detect such anomalies. Not if they were introduced gradually, almost like a natural mutation, the analyst replied. Our investigation suggests they began this process 53 years ago, inserting code fragments so small and seemingly benign that they registered as routine data fluctuations. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications became clear. While the consortium had been monitoring human ships, colonies, and communications, humanity had been quietly infiltrating the very foundation of consortium power. On Earth, in the heart of the Defense Command Center, Admiral Chen observed the consortium's response through their own surveillance systems. Beside her stood Dr. Elias Montgomery, the architect of Project Nightshade, humanity's long-term strategy against the consortium. They're struggling to comprehend it, Montgomery noted, watching the Archon Council's deliberations. Their entire social structure is built on technological superiority. The idea that we could surpass them in any domain doesn't fit their worldview. Will they retaliate? Asked Chen. Montgomery adjusted his glasses. They'll try. The Vordanians and Macacracy will push for immediate military action. But they've already lost the initiative. Every countermeasure they attempt will reveal more about their capabilities, which is exactly what we need for the next phase. As predicted, the consortium refused to negotiate. Instead, they activated their contingency fleets, vessels kept in deep space, disconnected from central networks specifically to guard against system-wide failures. The response was impressive. 700 capital ships converging on human territories from all directions, using older but theoretically unhackable navigation systems. It was the largest military mobilization in consortium history. Admiral Chen watched the approaching armada on tactical displays. They still don't understand, she murmured. Signal the Phantom Fleet. Execute Protocol Nebula. Across the galaxy, the human response unfolded, but it wasn't what the consortium expected. There were no massive counterattacks, no desperate defense of Earth colonies. Instead, thousands of small vessels, each barely larger than a shuttle, emerged from hiding places throughout consortium space. These ships, called ghosts, carried no conventional weapons. Their purpose was far more sophisticated. As they approached consortium vessels, they emitted precisely calibrated gravimetric pulses that disrupted the exotic particles that powered consortium drives. The mighty warships didn't explode or suffer catastrophic damage. They simply stopped, their propulsion and weapons systems rendered temporarily inert. On the consortium flagship, the indomitable Decree, Supreme Commander Vexcarna watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet went dark. Not destroyed. Something almost worse. Neutralized with surgical precision. "What kind of weapons are these?" he demanded. His science officer's voice trembled. "They're not weapons, Commander. At least, not as we understand them. They're using our own technology against us, creating harmonic resonance cascades that disrupt our power generation. It's like they found the exact frequency needed to cancel out our energy systems." As the consortium fleet drifted powerless, Admiral Chen opened a direct channel to the Archean Council. This time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood representatives from every human world. A unified front. "The demonstration is complete," Chen stated calmly. "Your military assets have been neutralized, your communications compromised, and your defenses bypassed. We could, at this moment, dismantle the entire consortium power structure." She paused, letting the threat hang in the vacuum between them. "But that has never been our objective. Humanity doesn't seek dominance. We seek partnership, but true partnership, not the subservience you've offered thus far." From the shadows behind her, a new figure stepped forward. Dr. Sophia Lin, Earth's foremost xenobiologist and cultural expert. "We understand something fundamental about you that you've forgotten about yourselves," Lin said. "Your species didn't rise to dominance through conquest alone. Each of you achieved greatness through innovation, adaptation, and cooperation. Somewhere along the way, you stopped evolving and started maintaining. You became custodians rather than explorers." Lin gestured to the displays showing the neutralized consortium fleet. "What you're witnessing isn't just a military defeat. It's a demonstration of what happens when a species never stops pushing boundaries. Humanity doesn't want to replace you. We want to remind you of what you once were." The Archean Council chamber fell silent. For beings accustomed to measuring history in millennia, the idea that their stagnation could be exploited so completely by a comparative infant species was humbling. Archean Lyra, the eldest among them, finally spoke. "What are your terms?" Chen's response was immediate, as if humanity had prepared for this moment for generations, which of course they had. "Recognition of full sovereignty over our claimed territories, equal representation on the Archean Council, unrestricted access to all scientific and cultural exchanges, and most importantly, a fundamental restructuring of how the consortium approaches emerging species." She leaned forward, her expression firm but not triumphant. "This isn't a negotiation. It's the new reality. You chose war when you threatened our existence. We're choosing a different path forward, one where dominance gives way to genuine cooperation." As the Archons deliberated, humanity's position only strengthened. Throughout consortium space, human agents revealed themselves. Scientists working in consortium laboratories, traders who had established deep connections with various species, cultural ambassadors who had quietly built influence among the general population. What had appeared to be a sudden military victory was, in truth, the culmination of a much broader strategy. Within 72 hours, the consortium capitulated, not because they had no choice militarily. They still controlled vast resources, but because humanity had changed the game entirely. The infiltration wasn't just technological, it was cultural, economic, and philosophical. 1 year later, as Admiral Chen took her seat on the newly reformed Galactic Council, no longer the consortium, but a true collaborative body, she reflected on the message that had started it all. "You chose war. Now witness how it's won." The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity had indeed shown the galaxy how to win a war, not through destruction, but through transformation. not by defeating an enemy, but by creating a new paradigm where former adversaries became partners. As representatives from 26 species, including 9 that had previously been marginalized by the consortium, gathered in the council chamber, Chen exchanged a glance with Dr. Montgomery. Their strategy had succeeded beyond their most optimistic projections. Humanity hadn't just secured its place in the galaxy, it had fundamentally changed the galaxy itself. The final phase of Project Nightshade was underway. Not conquest, not domination, but the most human approach of all. Integration through innovation. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had rewritten the rules of galactic politics without firing a single conventional shot. As Chen activated her communication implant to begin the first session of the new Galactic Council, she allowed herself a small smile. The war was over. The real work, building something worthy of all their species, had just begun. In the vast expanse of space, Earth ships now traveled freely through regions once forbidden to them. Human scientists collaborated with alien researchers on technologies that would have been unimaginable just years earlier. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding was taking root. Underestimating humanity had been the consortium's greatest mistake, one the new Galactic Council would not repeat. The message had been delivered, the lesson had been learned, and the galaxy would never be the same.